reflection and discovery, and I think that's really important, and I think we're going to see that shift.
Yeah, and I would just add that I think for anybody that's in the audience and who's watching this, I think we all have this opportunity to ask ourselves, no matter what we're creating, it could be robust technology, AI algorithms, it could be, full-on immersive, it could be VR experience, whatever it is. Take the time to ask the question, what is this? Why am I creating this? What is the purpose and what is the impact that I want to leave behind, no matter who this individual? It might be that you're a technologist contributing to what someone else is building, or you're building a consumer-facing experience. And I love talking about the theater piece because I think that is such an invitation that you're part of this story and experiencing things like being a 7-year-old again, probably terrifies a lot of us, but also really powerful because it is so human-centered and it's something we can relate to, but maybe experience in a very different way than what our childhood was like.
Deirdre, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, 100%. We've had people come through the show and go, I didn't have a very good relationship with my father, and then that moment in the attic with Dad where he had the starlight projector and we were just talking, I felt like I had a moment where I could see a world in which my dad was somebody that I loved and looked up to, right? So it's true, it happens. These and the emotional impact of these experiences is what stays with people, and it's why they remembered it. I was listening to Vicki Dobbs earlier, who was talking about Carnegie Arena, and talking about this 6.5-minute experience that she still remembers to this day, because, well, she also helped to create it, but because of the emotional impact that particular story had. It's the emotional impact that imprints in our brain and then allows us to remember it and take it into the future.
Yeah, and I'm having such an emotional reaction just to hearing you guys talk about this, which is really, really special. Stay with you for a minute, Deirdre, and shift gears to talk a little bit about scalability. We know Kelly's just opened her 5th, all by yourself, right?
Being smart.
Yeah, the 5th Meow Wolf. But for what you do and what James says, what are some of the challenges about expansion and scalability with VR theaters? What are the challenges you're up against?
Yeah, so a lot, right? So scalability is always something that people bring up. Oftentimes, I hear it mostly from businesses who are like, how can I make money on this? Right? And that's just the point of view that they're coming from. At this point, our point of view is how can I make a good emotional experience that resonates with people? And it's a good time to be doing that because right now scalability, it's possible, but it's also, we're not ready for it. The tech isn't quite ready for it. We work on Quest headsets because that's where most of our audience is. So we have to build to Quest specifications, and that means a much lower fidelity than something that would be tethered to a PC. And but that also means it's much more accessible to the world and to everybody around it to come see it. So that's one way we do it, is by creating experiences that are available to Quest. We can always create have a gazillion actors and then scale by doing different instances, but people aren't ready yet, right? They're not in a place where they have that much familiarity with VR headsets that they can just jump in and do it. It's coming. There are lots of people who have familiarity, but it's on that scale. But this will scale. It will scale in a way that live theater will scale. I don't know if it'll ever scale in the way that pre-recorded things will scale, because pre-recorded things is a different thing than what we do with live experiences. But, it just takes a little bit of thinking that's different. Why would you scale it in a way that's like a stadium? Why not make everybody invisible so everybody has a front row seat, right? Then make your VIP people, that paid a little extra for the ticket to be in, physical avatars, right? Or scale in ways that you have multiple actors and then you have multiple audiences all in the same instance. But that would take the tech to be in a better place. So we're just not ready yet. But it will happen, and it is coming. It's too powerful a medium for it not to.
Right, it's coming. James, how about you on the scalability topic?
The scalability question is definitely top of mind. With the Void, we didn't know what we were doing. Honestly, we had this great idea, and we didn't know how to do operations, and we didn't know what it was like to have turnover for our employees and all that stuff. And so we learned a lot. I definitely learned a lot. Pretty good with technology and things, but operations was not my thing, and so learned a lot. So that being in mind, it's always about how to get people in the equipment fast enough, how to get people out of the equipment, and be able to make that scalable and make it kind of turnkey. And so I learned a lot with the Void, and no batteries, no Wi-Fi networks, everything's tethered. Like we've taken away all the headaches. What you really want to do is try to make it for the end user so they don't see the technology, they just having the experience. And I think you really knock it out of the park when you do that. But the scalability factor for location-based entertainment is, at least for me, we're dealing with the coolest, best hardware on the planet. So location-based experience has the privilege of that. So we have very high-end machines, and the graphics are beautiful and multi-billion poly models that we're visualizing, and I think that's fun. But it does come with a heavy price tag for some of these locations. So you have to make sure that your throughput and your price per person, it makes sense, and that most importantly, that you're providing that value for the end user, so they are excited to come visit. So those business dynamics have to work in order to have that scalability work.
Yeah. And what do you do with handling things that come up with your guests, like motion sickness, and you talked a little bit about fear of heights, but that must be a big part of getting people through it and helping them enjoy it. So how do you deal with that?
We talk about, when you look at jump, you're like, oh yeah, you just step up the edge and you jump. There's a whole build-up of what happens. There's a storytelling thing where you, outside the building, it's safe and it's virtual reality and nothing's going to happen to you. When you cross that threshold, you start building that whole process up, and by the time you're putting on a wingsuit and a helmet and you step up to the edge, you are on the edge, and it's very real at that moment. And through the Void, I learned how to actually mitigate a lot of what people call VR sickness, and the basic thing around that is if you don't have enough physical stimulants that your body expects, your body actually thinks it's hallucinating, and so it's a very animal brain thing, where if you're just getting visuals and audio, and you're not feeling or smelling the environment, your body's like, hey, you're hallucinating, you need to get the mushrooms or whatever you ate out of your body, right? So at Jump, you can feel the wind, you can smell the environment. We have different scents, so when you're at airplane, you smell the airplane, and when you land, you smell the environment, you smell the pine trees and stuff like that. And you also use all of those physical sensations to triangulate space. I learned all these things from the scientists that I hang out with, but if you're not firing those neurons correctly and triangulating space correctly, then that also, has that problem. And so it has a lot more to do with the physical sensations that your body is expecting than it does frame rate or anything else like that. And so when you're doing all of those things, checking those boxes, then the person just exists in that space and they can be comfortable. We've only had a handful of people that have really had a problem at Jump, and most of it's because they've flown in and had a cup of coffee and then decided to jump. We also are dealing with, people do feel like that sometimes when they go skydiving, and we're very close to the real thing, so we do have that we deal with, but for the most part, we're managing it.
That's amazing. Kelly, scalability for Meow Wolf looks totally different because you are building these physical structures, and that's a lot of CapEx and a lot of time and a lot of planning without revealing anything that you're not allowed to reveal. Where are you going directionally as a company now, having 5 open, and what are these new communities that you're getting into, like Texas? How are they responding to something that had maybe not been in that area to date?
Yeah, our physical locations are always going to be a huge part of our business. We're very excited. We like to have these permanent locations. It's a huge part of what we do that I'm so proud of this company. I think Texas is a good example, but every single one of our locations is reflective of this, which is we go into communities and we want to reflect those communities. We don't go and show up and just replicate our experiences and drop it in your city and say, come check it out. We spend time understanding the community, the history, the origins, the people that lived there, what is the past, and what are the stories that we want to bring forward. We work with local artists to make sure this is being brought forward. So going to Houston was especially a really powerful moment. Again, I invite all of you to go check it out, but even just look at it online, read some things about it, because we went into an area called the 5th Ward, an amazing environment that has a really beautiful, rich history of radio and audio and music, with a very rich African-American culture that has really been kind of erased and really neglected. And the team spent so much time going in to uncover and bring that story forward. And it's really prevalent all throughout the exhibition. And radio is a huge part of it, so that's the entry point that For anybody who still knows what radio stations are, that's a thing that we do. But now we're so excited to kind of continue to tell those stories, to continue to uncover those communities, to be in new environments. And we're very excited because next up is LA in my own backyard here. Yes. Probably late 26, not official, but 2026 we will be showing up in LA. We are going to be the Howard Hughes Los Angeles building. That is all very official. So if you drive to LAX, you've probably driven by our location. We are going to be in the Cinemark that's within that building. So if you know what I'm talking about, go check it out. It's an amazing building. Use your imagination. But again, we're excited to come into LA. And what is LA known for? We're known for storytelling. We're known for movies. We're known for really helping people remember the origin of what it was like to see things on a silver screen for the first time. So we're going to go in there, and as I've said many times in this conversation, we're going to grow in a way that's going to come to LA in a very authentic way, but we're going to break the rules, and we're going to invite you to think about storytelling and the movies in a very different way and see yourself in that world in a different way. And I'll just ask you to say, I'm talking about the physical locations. I think like James, we're lucky that we get to control that environment. There's a lot that we can do and bring to life and push boundaries on a permanent location. As we continue to stretch, we do things in VR, AR is on our horizon, mixed reality will always be something we're looking at. We have an app as of last year that's connected to our exhibitions and beyond. We will always be pushing the boundaries of new forms for everyone to experience now, whether it's in real life or on a device.
Excellent. Well, very exciting for a new location. Want to throw a little bit of a curveball because I think we're getting close to time here. Two really interesting developments in the last year and a half have been the introduction of venues that are really technology driven, right? So we have the Sphere in Las Vegas. How many have been to the Sphere? A couple. And then COSM, which is here in Los Angeles, and others are opening. And these are venues that are very expensive to build, but they are betting on the technology driving the customer and the storytelling. Whether or not the model proves out to be successful, we're all on bated breath waiting to see, but it's really changed the industry a lot, both the live entertainment industry and the immersive industry and the tech industry. So I'd love to hear from each of you just thoughts on those two ventures and where you think it's taking this side of the business. Why don't we start with you, Deirdre?
Sure, I actually haven't been to either, but I do, I have looked at COSM for sure and heard great things about it as people have talked about it, but I think what they have going for them is this really smart idea of putting live sporting events on the screen in this sort of 3D environment, 2D environment that wraps around you, so you feel like you've got a front row seat, plus you're in and amongst friends, so there's that community element, right? So you've got a little bit of community. You're all coming to see something you wouldn't necessarily see at home or in that same way. So I think that they've got a really good, smart model of community and storytelling. I think I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, awesome. James?
Yeah, definitely. I've seen both. They have a COSM in Utah that I actually got to go see, a little private thing. Really awesome. And then the Sphere too. I think the biggest thing that is positive for them is that kind of being there together, and then high capacity. But they can pack those things full of a lot of people at the same time and provide the value, I believe, for front row seat to anything. And I think that is a really big facet of that is having that high capacity, maybe a lower ticket, but then over delivering on that experience, and they do have the potential for that for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And Kelly?
Yes, I have seen both. They're both amazing and in actually very different ways. So, and I think we talked about Sphere last time I was here too. We were talking about what it might do. I think it is fascinating when it comes to concerts. I'm also super curious what it's going to do to film and what it's going to do to how we watch movies, since that's a whole space we all know is evolving rapidly. But I think they're two very distinct, and I echo both of what Deirdre and Jensen said, which is I saw COSM, I've watched an experience there, and I've watched a tennis match actually, and I'm not a huge tennis fan, I'm a fan of tennis, but I became a tennis fan in that moment because it was the most compelling experience to really feel like I was at that live event, and I was with people, we were socializing, and it felt as close you can be in that very community focused, in the moment. They do a fantastic job in live sports. And I think the Sphere does an amazing job to really just create this awe and wonder of size and scale, watching what they've done already within there. So I think there's room for both of them, but I'm fascinated to see both live sporting events take advantage of these spaces, and to see film kind of lead into those spaces as well.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Well, thank you for those comments, and then we're going to have to wrap up. And so I'd like each of you to give us final thoughts on what are you looking forward to from this industry, from what your company's doing, and/or from what your competitors are doing. What should we all be excited to see coming up next, Deirdre?
Well, I love the fact that you're now able to curate entertainment in a way that fits your desires and your needs, and there's so many different avenues and outlets for that you can actually, choose what you like, as opposed to, when I was a child, 4, 5, 7, 10, and 11, and then you had to go to the movies to see the movie theater. So now you're able to curate this beautiful experience, and for you and your loved ones, whatever you want, entertainment.
Yeah, great answer, James.
Yeah, kind of along the same lines, just with AI coming into the mix and the acceleration of content development. I mean, I see a very real future where you come to Jump and you kind of pick your menu, or even just your prompt, if you will, of ideas that you would like to experience, and then it just dynamically creates this amazing world for you to be in. And that's a very real thing. That's going to be so cool to see. And having the right amount of data to feed those language models to curate an experience that's meaningful to a person, I think goes up significantly, because you're not just guessing and generalizing for a lot of people. Now you can be very targeted, and you can create content that's very specific to them. And I think that is really exciting. I'm actually so happy that I get to be a part of that, I get to be part of kind of that evolution with AI coming into the mix and be able to create content, and it's going to be really fun to see what happens.
Kelly?
Yeah, and I would add, I will actually dovetail a little bit, because I think what I'm most excited about with AI, when we think about it from Yalop's lens, is co-creation, and this being a tool to really invite our fans, our visitors, to come in and create with us. And I think AI is a really powerful tool for that. So you don't want AI to take over the world. It's not a Terminator thing, but I think it can be such a powerful tool both for creators and in co-creation for all of our fans. And then I'm going to get a little existential again, but it's the theme of this conversation. I'm really excited for more and more creators to just take risks and tell really compelling stories, and to create content, experiences, whatever that looks like for you, but do it with a statement. It might be controversial, it might not be for everyone, but the more that we can create this heart-centered content that has a statement, that has a purpose, that is an invitation for others to maybe think differently, to open their minds, or to believe more in themselves, I think that's only going to make the world a better place.
Fantastic. How about a round of applause for this incredible group? As its mission statement, right? We exist at the intersection of entertainment and technology. I think this panel could not have nailed it better than they did. And what they also did was bring heart into it and storytelling into it, and really made this a humanistic conversation. And I'm just so grateful to all of you for being here, and thanks for listening to us, and let's go Immersive.
Yeah.